All right, what's going on, Giants fans? Starting the free agency series. To prep for free agency, we're going to have one video every weekday previewing a position. Today, we're going to start with the quarterbacks of the most likely free agent additions. Not my top 5 targets, just the most likely. I'm going to be looking at connections to the coaching staff. We saw the Giants, use those a lot in their 2020 free agency. So I expect to see the same. Obviously, you're not going to have a connection to every guy, especially, some of the bigger name guys. But hitting some stuff. And we're going to start with QB. The Giants need a backup QB, and we'll talk about it. But first, make sure to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. All right. First on the list, most likely guys to be a New York Giants backup QB. We're starting with Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy, 34 years old, 6'1", 212 pounds. Obviously signed with the Giants last year on a 1-year, $2.25 million deal, which is where I really see the Giants spending that type of money on their backup. He obviously went 1-1 as the backup. They won the Seahawks game where he went 13 for 22, 105 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Now that 1 interception was off of Evan Ingram's hands. Stop me if you've heard that one before. He didn't really play that well in that game. It was more the running. You remember, they got down the field because of the big running plays from Gallman and then Alfred Morris. But the defense won that game. And then he came and started the second against Cleveland on Sunday Night Football, where I actually thought he played pretty decent. Went 19 of 31, 221 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And they had some big plays in there. And they got down the field. First drive, got down to the Cleveland 8, fake field goal on 4th down. Cleveland 19, next drive, field goal. Cleveland 6, the next drive, went for it on 4th and 1, ran the ball, didn't get it. Cleveland 44, the next drive, punted. Punted on the next drive. Cleveland 21, kick a field goal. So, 5 out of 6 drives they got into the, Cleveland territory with Colt McCoy. So I think he's a solid backup. I don't believe in spending a ton of money with your backup. I really am. Especially with the way the Giants are. I do think it's going to be hey, we're not going to spend a ton of money at this position. We're going to kind of bank on Daniel Jones staying healthy. McCoy, you have the familiarity there with him. He used to meet with Judge and Patrick Graham after practices, talking about the defense because he ran the Scout O. Would tell him hey, you were trying to disguise this, it didn't work. So I think I think that is the most likely option. He plans to be a coach once he's done playing in the NFL. And he does have a little bit of a connection with Jones playing the 1 year, and he played under Pat Shurmur in Cleveland. So Colt McCoy is my number 1 most likely. Next on the list, Tyrod Taylor, 31 years old, 6'1", 217 pounds. Spent the last 2 years with the Chargers on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Where could I see the Giants getting him? This is probably the one I would want the most on this list. Maybe around $3 million a year. He didn't do anything in 2019 with the Chargers, and then he started the first game against the Bengals, won that game, but he didn't play well, and then obviously had the heart issue, and then Justin Herbert took over and balled out after that. So I think he's going to want to move on from the Chargers, especially with the way they handled medicals, and he's really got no chance to play with Justin Herbert there. I think he's the most likely, the best one out of this most likely that I think you could get. The next one's probably better, but he's not as likely. He got a career completion percentage of 61.4%, 7 yards per attempt, 54 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. He's had over 500 rushing yards twice. So he's the kind of backup where, listen, he's not going to light it up if he needs to come in and play, but you can do some different things. Use the read option with him and Barkley, get him outside the pocket, and I think that's why he probably would be my number 1 target for the New York Giants. He was with Freddie Kitchens, who, Freddie Kitchens is taking a bigger role in the offense. He was there in 2018 with Cleveland when Freddie Kitchens took over the offense. So there's some familiarity there with Tyrod Taylor. Next on the list is probably the best of these players, but I don't think he's likely because I think he's going to cost some money. Jacoby Brissett, 28 years old, 6'4", 238 pounds. I looked at some of the backup contract, the backup QB contracts from 2020. Marcus Mariota got the best one at 2 years, $17.6 million. So I don't see him getting that. Winston at the bottom had 1 year, $1.1. So maybe you end up getting something like that done with Brissett, and then it works out. Because I don't think Brissett's as good as Jameis Winston, and I'm not even a Jameis Winston fan. So, I think his number is going to be around $5 million. There's not a lot of QB turnover, so I don't think he's going to be looking for a starting job. So I do think he will be like the cream of the backups this year. In 2019, when he was the starter, he completed 66% of his passes, 196 yards per game, 6.6 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, added 200 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. So he's just a guy that's going to like run an offense. He's going to do it okay. He's not going to blow you away. He's not going to, stretch the field. He's just kind of going to do what you need him to do. But he also can make some plays too. So that's why I just think he's the best out of the group. And there is a lot of familiarity. He was with New England. Joe Judge was there, and then Jerry Shuplinski, who was the assistant QB coach, and those guys love him. I mean, here's a quote Brissett had on Shuplinski. Definitely one of my favorite coaches I have ever had. I say that sincerely. He's a guy I consider more of a friend than a coach. And there was other quotes. So he is the one out of this group that probably would put a little pressure on Daniel Jones if he struggled. I think if Daniel Jones struggles, there's going to be a ton of pressure anyways. But I think he's the one out of this group where, people will be like, let's start the other guy. Let's give Jacoby Brissett a chance. So I think he's the least likely out of this group, but I do think he's the best option. Next on the list, now we're getting a little dry here. Brian Hoyer, 35 years old, 6'2", 216 pounds, made $1 million last year. I think if they don't want to pay like a $2 million a year, like say Tyrod Taylor, Colt McCoy are both looking in that $2 to $4 million range, and they don't want to do that, and they really want to spend the bare minimum on backup QB, which I would be totally fine with. I think Brian Hoyer is that option. Where they're like, hey, we got other things to spend money on. We're not going to be investing a lot in our backup QB. We're not a team that's good enough to do that. We're going to bring Brian Hoyer in because of the familiarity. He had one start last year for the Patriots versus the Chiefs. 15 to 24, 130 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's a guy with a lot of experience. He's thrown for over 10,000 yards and has 52 touchdowns. So he's got a lot of experience, and obviously there's that connection there with Joe Judge, Jerry Shuplinski. He was in Arizona in 2012. Freddie Kitchens was a coach on that staff. He was a tight ends coach. So I don't know how much familiarity there is there. Kitchens did become the QB coach the next year, but Hoyer was there. So I think Hoyer could be that guy if they're not wanting to spend over $2 million. I think that he could be that guy. And then fifth on my list, it was hard to find someone. Matt Barkley, 30 years old, 6'2", 234 pounds. Made $1.5 million last year, and he could make that or less for the Giants. I think the Bills are going to move on from him and go with Jake Fromm, and they did spend a 5th-round pick on him, so I think that'll be his backup. Last year versus Miami, he went 6 for 13, 164 yards, so not a good completion percentage and relief in that Week 17 game. But he had some big plays, 12.6 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. You'll see in the highlights. I mean, he was spinning it a little bit. He does have like an indirect connection. Obviously, Brandon Beane is the GM for the Bills. He was under Dave Gettleman in Carolina, and those guys are really close friends. The Giants could want him to, maybe help out with some aspects of like, hey, let's bring in some what the Bills do with Brian Dabble and Ken Dorsey and the things they do. He was with Pat Shurmur in 2013 and 2014 with the Eagles, so there is that type of connection with Jones. I don't know. Like I said, I've mentioned that, but I don't know if there's any really anything there with that. And when I went to the Under Armour the Junior Under Armour All-American Combine while they were playing the Under Armour All-American game, I thought he was going to be the real deal. He was so accurate the way he just threw a beautiful ball. I thought he was going to be a real deal. So those are my 5 for QBs. We'll have another one tomorrow. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We put out all types of stuff. Draft. Once we do start signing guys, I'll do film breakdowns on each one of them, so you can have that to look forward to. So let me know which one of these guys you would like, or if there's somebody else. Like I said, Matt Barkley, Jacoby Brissett, Brian Hoyer, Colt McCoy, or Tyrod Taylor. Let me know which one of those guys you want. Appreciate you guys. See you then. Let's go Big Blue.